Welcome back. Oh man, GDP estimates are now dropping, plummeting in fact. Lots of earnings, Palantir, Starbucks, Apple, Marriott. Boy, we've got actually quite a few to cover here. But I really want to get started with this GDP estimate. A lot of about this potential for the market essentially pricing in its own rate cuts following the Federal Reserve's dovishness yesterday. And a lot of folks are now wondering, was the Fed so dovish because they knew this new GDP Now estimate was dropping yesterday, right around the same time of the Fed event. But, excuse me, I'm choking on myself. I haven't had enough coffee. Mikey, if we can, let's go ahead and pull up that GDP Now estimate. If we scroll all the way to the bottom, this is this is actually a good one, actually. Let's stay there. So this is Bloomberg that put this together. They basically just chart changes in the Atlanta Fed GDP Now estimate over time. Now, it's worth remembering, when you hear Atlanta Fed, I don't want you to think that this is just Atlanta. This is representative of the entire country. And what they do is they take the latest data releases and they try to aggregate them. They've got about 5 big ones that weigh into this, and they put it together and try to use things like the Institute for Supply Side Management's purchasing orders for companies, what kind of orders are businesses putting in because of orders they're getting from their customers, whatever. They put this together and they come up with an estimate. As you can see, it's extremely volatile. It changes pretty heavily. And that's because a lot of what this is based on are month-over-month figures from, ISM or otherwise. Well, as you can see on the far right, we've gone from this high estimate of somewhere around 4.75 to 5.25%, which everybody, when they saw that, they're like, this is crazy. The Fed's a bunch of clowns. Why would they possibly think GDP is this high? And then sure enough, GDP comes in hot at 4.9%. So at least here in recent history, it's been pretty spot on. The problem now, though, is it's dropped all the way to 1.2% on the right side. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom there, Mikey, this is the, you could go to this website. It's atlantafed.org. That's where you can see this chart. But this here shows you that the stock market has been pretty consistent over the last month in their estimate that we're trading somewhere around 0.8 to 0.9% growth. Now you've got the Atlanta Fed coming in saying, yeah, maybe the stock market's more accurate. We're going to drop our growth down to about 1.2%. Again, driven by estimates from some of the most recent data releases, ISM reports on businesses, ordering, private domestic investment growth, personal consumption expenditures. That's the PCE inflation number that comes out, which comes with retail sales and other sales data. So all of this gets merged together. And it's really starting to send the signal of like, okay, maybe it's all aligning now. JPOW sees, okay, now we're starting to see some of the slowdown. Now we're getting the slowing we want. Now we got to make sure we don't slow too much. And I think that's where Wall Street is, reacting with Treasury yields plummeting the way they did today. We're down at 4.6% on the 10-year right now. We've come off a cliff there of 5% essentially. So we're down, 34 basis points. Mortgage rates finally down for the first time in many months. And the expectation is these could continue to fall as now you actually have a Fed that's switching dovish. T.S. Lombard, one of the good old bears, they have a piece out called FOMC hopes to be invisible in 2024. I just want to disappear. Just don't mind us over here. Please don't go into recession. What do y'all think? And what do we got? Because I know we had some earnings today that seemed to hint a little bit of pausing and slow down as well. But what would y'all see out there?
That's kind of exactly, we were talking about it quite a bit before the pod in terms of earnings overview. We'll dive into it more later in the episode. But a lot of what we're seeing is at expectations, but bad guidance. And it's a little worrisome. Going into Q4 is going to be fascinating to watch how the consumer responds with the holiday season, because usually that's what's going to be the highest consumer spending is going to this holiday season. So is the consumer going to spend all their money? Now we're going to crash in Q1 of 2024? I don't know.
Or did they already spend all their money?
Did they already spend their money? Are they going to spend every savings? Is credit card debt going to go through the roof? It's going to be fascinating to watch how the consumer reacts in Q4, but I think we'll really feel the pain from the consumer in Q1.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because, I mean, in Q1, so between like January 20th and about February 10th or so, you'll have a lot of earnings. That'll be your Q4 earnings. But your big tell is probably going to be November, like 26, 27, 28, right? Your Cyber Monday, your Black Friday. What sales are we going to see here? Are we going to be positive year over year? Imagine we get a big negative year over year, like we're down 5% year over year. People will freak. So I actually think there'll be a lot of potentially, as long as we have an okay jobs number tomorrow, I'll be live at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow, and we have an okay CPI read on the 13th this month, there's a chance we could be in the clear for some upward movement in stocks between now and Thanksgiving holiday, basically. And then it'll be on to Black Friday sales. Are those going to crash and evidence a recession, or essentially try to predict a recession, or are they going to be okay? And then the fear will go into, I think, Q4 earnings, which, again, Q4 earnings, you're not going to get that until the end, second and a half to third week of January. So hopefully we can pull a 2023 off again, where it's just a nice, smooth, slow and steady up for 6 months.
And then it's just the game of always like, oh, well, Q2 of 2024 will be really interesting. Every quarter is always really interesting. Every quarter is always a big deal for the media. But then it's like, okay, how did the consumer hold up in Q1 after Q4?
Right.
Did they spend all of their money? How is the consumer holding up? So it's just kind of always kicking the can down the road.
Oh, there's always a catalyst.
Always, yeah.
Oh, there's always something to complain about. What I just think is so exciting, though, is that I have this mindset that, and then maybe I'm like naively optimistic, but I just have this mindset that we're gonna get through this. It's painful for everybody. Like it's a very painful process to go through this whole sort of Fed tightening cycle. You know, everybody watches the Fed. Even people with shorts are like, is this the last time I'm going to make money shorting? You know, like they're also ready to turn into bulls, I feel like. But everybody's like, I don't know, man, something else might break. You know, everybody's nervous, and we've kind of been stabbed in the back by markets. You know, everybody, bulls and bears, everybody's gotten hurt.
Yeah.
It's like this market's leaving nobody unhurt.
I was not expecting this. Honestly, I was not expecting like this rough of a Q3 for the stock market.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
I was just kind of expecting like that, like you were saying, early 2023, that gradual incline in stock prices. But that is not what we saw.
I would agree with you. I wouldn't have suspected such a large shift. It's funny because in the ETF we manage, I lowered our allocation. I increased our allocation to cash to like 10%. Somewhere it was like late July or something like that. I wish I went 100% cash. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20, right? But yeah, I mean, that's one of the ways that you could drive yourself crazy, though.
Yeah,
is just constantly trying to be like, "Well, you could have done this and could have done that." It could have, like, that's just where you turn into an emotional flip flopper, and you're not actually using reason and logic to make decisions.
Yeah,
and that's the most dangerous kind of investor, I think.
For a long time, we talked about the Nike swoosh,
volatile Nike swoosh. Everybody forgets the volatile Nike swoosh.
It's like a kindergartner's shaky Nike swoosh.
Do you think
Paul's?
You know, like in all fairness, you called the first half of 2023 relatively like Nike swoosh. Did this catch you in your Nike, like your volatile Nike swoosh thesis by surprise a little bit?
Well, the whole point of the volatile Nike swoosh is that I knew that it wasn't going to be easy for people to accept that inflation is going away. And that is still the case. I still don't think it's easy for people to accept inflation's going away. I was suspecting a lot more of like okay, we're up 5%, we're down 4. We're up 5%, we're down 4. We're up 5, we're down 4. That's what I meant with volatile Nike swoosh, that we would kind of have exactly like you said, the kindergartner with the crayon, and the trend channel is up over a 5 to 10 year period. We're still only 1 year in. We're still technically at the beginning of the swoosh, right? You look at the QQQ, we're 35-ish% under inflation adjusted highs. That's really important. I said inflation adjusted, because if you add 18% to where the SPY and the QQQ were, we've got a big way to go. If you don't inflation adjust, you go, oh, we got close there for a moment, but we have had inflation. I mean, I ran out of Halloween candy we talked about the other day.
Can't believe it.
It's $1,000 on Halloween candy. I ran out for the first time because $1,000 just doesn't buy what it used to buy. But anyway, so what did you guys see with earnings? Maybe we could start with Palantir, because I have to say, I've been bragging about Palantir's balance sheet. I'm too much of a baby to have a big position, or any position for that matter, in Palantir. But I have been bragging about their balance sheet. I didn't look at their earnings yet. I'm pulling them up right now. But boy, oh boy, I know y'all have looked at some of them. What did you guys see? I know a lot of people had hope for Palantir in terms of AI. And in fairness, they were AI before it was called AI. They're the big data. AI was the one who was going to tell you how many employees you needed to show up for a shift, where the cops should go. Nobody knew how to explain it. It was just the software's like, go here, drive the police car here. Why, computer? Do it. And then there's a crime. Like, it's actually scary, right? Now it's like, oh yeah, it's AI.
It's like Cortana from Halo. You don't know where it comes from, but it's follow Cortana.
Yeah,
Big
that's a
data
good
is
one.
accurate. When they have that much data to aggregate, which Palantir obviously does, it's really, really easy to draw some good conclusions as long as you have good software. And I mean, they absolutely killed it today. They're up in the day today. They were over 20% up, a little bit down in after hours. It was down like 1% last I checked, but I mean, absolutely killed it today. EPS was 7 cents adjusted versus the 6% that was expected. Revenue came in at 558 million versus the 556.1 that was expected. Q3 revenue increased 17% to 558 million, which was only 478 a year ago.
Oh, look at this. Palantir CEO. Palantir now eligible to join the S&P 500. That's at least what the CEO is saying. That's not saying they're going to, but...
Well, yeah, they could be on paper, like they meet all the qualifications,
Right.
but they still have to be voted
Yeah,
in.
yeah, exactly. But it was sort of like, you know how anticlimactic that was when Tesla joined the S&P 500?
I disagree.
What?
That was one of the first big rallies I ever had as a Tesla investor.
Are you
So when
serious?
Yes.
You know, maybe I'm mistaken
I remember
here.
very clearly.
I thought it was
where
a nothing burger.
No, I remember very clearly where I was when that announcement came out.
Did it fall back down after it joined the
Of
S&P?
course,
Yeah,
always.
okay.
3
Oh,
years
yeah.
flat.
Oh, you're talking about the
No,
hype
no.
leading up to
Well,
it.
no, no.
Oh.
Well, the hype leading up to it, and then it was like a 4 or 5% bump after hours when the actual announcement came out.
Yeah.
I was joking. Like,
And the next
like,
day it was down
last-
10%, right?
No, in Tesla probably. It's the inverse Nike swoosh.
Oh, just down. Oh.
It gives you hope, like it's gonna go every time. Inverse Nike swoosh.
It's like the girl who's like, hey, JK.
It's a dude.
Oh.
Palantir's commercial revenue actually grew substantially. We were talking 33% year over year.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense, because I don't think it's like every individual in America that's like, I need AI. You know, like, okay, so you use GPT. Most people just use the free version. Like, big deal. That's not where the money is. You know where the money is in like Walmart saving money, or UPS having streamlined logistics. Keep going, man. That is where Palantir can make big
That was
money.
like the biggest worry when I was looking at Palantir in 2021 was that they were so heavily involved in government contracts
as opposed
that
to commercial.
That they were like, if the government like takes
Picks
out
someone
one of their-
else.
you're toast.
You know, Nancy Pelosi chooses someone else.
Yeah.
So they 33%, but U.S. markets commercially they were up 37%. But to your point, these aren't like small regular people. We're talking about an increase from 132 customers to 181 customers.
Wow. I mean, that is a good jump, but again, you're like, from the scope of how many customers that is, each of those customers is providing massive revenue. How many did you say they have now? 181?
181.
Okay, so they had $558 million in Q3 divided by 181. That's $3 million a quarter. That means on average, these companies have $10 million contracts just for freaking AI. So like, and that's a big deal. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to minimize that, but I'm trying to compare it to like, you have an individual who's like, I just use GPT, the free version. You know, it's like a pain to convince them to use the $20 version. And then here you have 181 companies spending on average $10 to $12 million a year going, I need this. That's where the money is.
But if you could even say, like for Walmart, if they can save a little bit more in efficiency, it's like
Oh,
totally
it pays
worth
for itself. Oh, it
Which is-
100%
which is
pays for
brilliant.
itself.
Like, we love talking about pricing power. It's like what we love talking about. Does Palantir have pricing power?
No, I like talking about PP.
Sorry. Yes.
Large. Oh, that is pricing power. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Palantir is just swinging their pricing power around right now.
But does Palantir have price? It's like, what do you does Palantir really have?
Well, so I mean,
competition?
the idea is like growing margins, right? So you don't. like I think sometimes people hear pricing power and they think, okay, well, stock goes up, therefore it has pricing power. But there are a lot of risks associated with that, right? Like you could have a very low pricing power company that the stock just skyrockets, like companies that literally go bankrupt, right? So the short-term swings of the stock market are insane. And you can't really invest around that. Does Palantir have pricing power? I mean, I would argue with their ability to attract and maintain high margins, absolutely.
Well,
I'm going to pull up the
this.
actual.
Palantir is not interest rate sensitive.
No company that it's actually quite the opposite. Any of these commercial customer-oriented companies wins in this kind of market because the big companies, the Walmarts, for example, they're the ones making money off these interest rates. Remember that. The consumer's getting screwed by high interest rates. Microsoft, for example, as just another comparison, they're making twice as much money in interest than they're spending on interest because they have so much cash.
Yeah. Well, what I mean by that is like, imagine Tesla if they weren't subject to interest rates.
Oh,
Tesla's
yeah.
getting screwed by that.
Oh, no, I agree with you. You're right.
Palantir's like, everything that's wrong with Tesla
is right with
seems
Palantir.
Like Palantir is right with.
Yes, you're correct.
Like,
absolutely.
This is weird. Like,
No, it's not. It totally makes sense.
It's weird that it's not weird.
Well, okay. I mean, I'm pulling up. I mean, it's wonderful. I'm pulling up their. They don't have their 10Q out yet. They do have their obviously their investor relations consolidated financial statements. I'm just going to take a quick look at some of their consolidateds here. Mostly, what I want to look at is cash flow because this company every time I look at this company, I'm like fortress balance sheet and cash flow. So I want to verify that again. What do we have in the 9 months ending September 30th, 2022? $145 million of cash flow. Losers. What do you have in the 3 months ending September 30th, 2023? $411 million. That's more than like 2.5x the cash flow. That's nice. And they cut their stock comp by $100 million. Wow.
Peter Carp.
Oh, Peter.
Is it Peter Carp?
Thiel, there's
Peter
Carp.
Thiel, Peter Thiel, Carp. Yeah.
Why do I always get them mixed up? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So Peter Thiel is the CEO of PayPal. There we go. Okay. Then you have.
Thiel was the CEO of PayPal.
Is he not anymore? Oh, he left.
He was like he's
Alex Karp. That's who you're thinking
former
of.
CEO of PayPal.
Yeah. Okay.
Thiel.
Alex Karp. That's who you're thinking of. So anyway, you've got liabilities. Okay, let me take a quick look at their free cash flow here. So we've got $1 billion of cash, 2.2 of marketable securities. That's $3.2 billion. Then you've got bills on their desk of maybe $185 million. Wow. Long-term debts, like nothing. There are lease liabilities here. There are customer deposits, deferred revenues. But you've got $185 million of bills, and you're sitting on $2.3-ish billion of cash.
Wow.
Dude, that's insane.
It's crazy. Like, I love their balance sheet, but it's just so hard. It's like,
but they make so much money.
It's like, what is Palantir? Like, we know what it is, like on paper, but it's like we don't see it, we can't feel it, touch it, smell it. Like, we don't like. It's so hard.
Let's sign up HouseHack to be a $10 million per year customer of Palantir.
This is a joke for all intents and purposes. We are so grateful for our Reg A and Reg D investors. That was a joke.
Our lawyer's thanking you in the other room right now.
What do you think, Mikey? I mean, what do you think about Palantir? What else do you have? I know I keep jumping in on you.
I just have like some net income here. That's $72 million, which is 3 cents per share. But you compare that to this time last year where they had a net loss of almost 9 figures. Ooh. So I mean, they're moving quick. Fun fact about Peter Thiel, just because you guys mentioned him, that dude made like $5 billion in a Roth IRA. Did you know that?
Didn't he put like the ownership of his startup company or whatever in a Roth?
I think PayPal was part of what he put in his Roth, and then I think he had Apple stock early on too.
Wow, and just shoved it in his Roth.
$5 billion tax free.
Yeah,
that's so insane.
Smart dude. Wow. Okay, so. I mean, I have to say, I'm excited to go through the Palantir earnings call as well. We'll probably focus on that with course members. But this is a company that is absolutely killing it. They are proving that they are one of the winners of AI because they're not like faux AI, like, oh, everybody's got AI. No, they are the OG version of what these servers are meant for, and they're killing it.
The thing is, okay, well, wow, my mind just was blown.
Oh, no.
This is crazy.
Don't hurt yourself.
This is wild. Are you ready for this?
Cut to commercial.
Do you know how do you know how afraid we get of uncertainty, like the stock market?
I
hates
do. I love uncertainty. But no, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Investors-
Palantir thrives in uncertainty. Think about it. Every war that breaks out, it's a new need for Palantir.
Well, that's true too. It's more government revenue.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah, and in tight times, you want as a business to be more efficient.
Yes.
So you are willing to pay for
Yes.
software that'll make you more efficient.
It's almost a PP against It's like they have like PP against macroeconomics.
It's counter-cyclical.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. But then in a bull market, it does just as well because people want to spend more to become more efficient.
Last point I have on Palantir, you guys mentioned
I'm tingling.
Opposites with Tesla, but one thing they both have going for them is the vast amount of data. I think that's their moat kind of in both cases. That's why Tesla's so good with full self-driving. It's just the vast amount of real-world data they have, and that's what Palantir is killing it in right now too.
Yeah. Well, and the more data they get from these large customers as well, the more that moat develops. The harder it. See, like. To really, I feel like, win at the AI game, whatever you want to call it, it's almost like you got to get these old legacy grandpas into an AI company that's like, we don't know AI. And, a Palantir is like, we got you. But then they actually have to do a good job. Because if you screw the big business up, they will drop you. But once that's functioning, that system, I think the bigger legacy style businesses are going to have a really hard time switching to somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, how do you export your Palantir AI now, or your Palantirified AI, to another AI platform? Like,
The moat of
Salesforce
iOS.
was one of the things. Yeah, basically, the Salesforce was one of the companies that pissed me off because they're like, oh yeah, we have the AI chatbot or whatever. It was like Einstein, I think it was what it was called or whatever. So we called their sales team and we're like, let's go. We want to try this out. We want to go with it. And they're like, the salespeople, they're like, oh, we just have that on the website. It's a coming soon thing. We don't actually have that. And I'm like, what? So that was like back in March or April. So who knows? Maybe it's out now. But I'm like, you guys are Salesforce. Like, what's that company worth? It's like certainly more than $50 billion. And they didn't even figure it out yet. Yeah, they're worth $200 billion. It was 4 times my initial there.
Yeah.
So, Palantir.
Their competition is Apache. I've never heard of these companies. Apache, Hadoop, Databricks, and Azure.
Azure is massive.
that's
and Apache
huge.
is
Those are the
massive.
3, but like
Yeah.
the 18%, 15%, 14% of market share.
But wait, who actually goes to Microsoft Azure for AI? Like, how much are they doing? Because I think of them as more of like storage.
Yeah.
I think of them as like
Cloud.
If you're not at Google Cloud, you're at Azure or AWS, right? I do wonder how much Azure actually does. I mean, you say cloud computing services, but what? Like, are we just talking about Microsoft Word in the cloud?
it is really popular with software companies. It's mostly for data storage, and then after that, it's really for drawing data out of that.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, you could run your APIs on there. They have containers. It's actually Kubernetes here. This is very similar actually to what Google's. I didn't know Microsoft had all of that. That makes a lot of sense. So I guess that's important for other folks to know too. But yeah, you've got it here. You could use their Azure AI Vision, bot service, machine learning. It's really Google has exactly the same thing where you could host your AI app on their platform and then run it using their servers and their H100 graphic cards. So that way you're not buying a $40,000 chip that costs NVIDIA $7,000 to make. But
Yeah.
Kubernetes is pretty brilliant. I'm not going to go too much of a tangent, but it's basically like virtual servers that you could spin up and spin down as needed. So it's been brilliant. Kubernetes kills it.
It's interesting you say that. It's like kind of what Apple was trying to announce in their latest Mac video. In their last Mac video, they were talking about how, we're so innovative. Now we're going to use the graphic cards, the different cores. I think it was either the GPU or the CPU. But anyway, they were going to use the different cores. And rather than running them all at like the same speed, we're going to run them all at different speeds. It was something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't have the technical knowledge to perfectly re-explain that. But basically, they were saying we could be more efficient about how we run different components of the chip. And it's very much like what you're describing with the servers. It's like, why, just use what you need, basically. So that's an interesting comparison. But anyway, if anybody watches that Apple video again, I think that'll make sense. Okay, so that's Palantir. What else do we have? I heard Opendoor is not closed door yet.
Yeah, surprisingly, no, not yet. I closed my notes. My notes did not save right before I started my computer, restarted my computer. But basically what Opendoor is saying, I listened to their entire earnings call, and then I went.
Give us the bottom line.
Bottom line, they're still buying houses. They're going to buy 3,000 houses. They bought 3,000 houses in Q3. They're going to buy 3,000 houses in Q4. They can't necessarily buy more than 3,000 houses because they said that 50% of active new listings, there are 50% less new listings in October through December. So they can't necessarily increase, and they don't really want to decrease because their revenue would slow down quite a bit. It would bog them for the 2024, but instead of listing them right away on the market like they normally do, they're going to buy them and hold until the spring to list them again in the spring. But what's really interesting is that you might say, oh, this is just super normal, like it's a cycle for real estate, like inventory always slows down. But this is a bigger adjustment than normal because they had to increase their operating expenses higher than normal to adjust for holding costs. Which,
okay, so let me just catch up there really quick because that's a lot. So what you're saying is Opendoor is still buying homes because they have to, because that's what their revenue is. Their revenue is basically buying and selling homes. Yeah. So if you want to absolutely destroy your company at Opendoor, you stop buying and selling homes and your revenue goes to zero, and now you have all the OpEx and you look like a total loser.
Yeah.
So because of the nature of their business model, which is basically a glorified idiotic flipper that's on Wall Street who flips homes, like they're so terrible at actually executing. It's shocking they are not bankrupt yet. Although maybe not. At the end of last year, it was middle of last year, we were looking at Opendoor. We're like, selling for $1. This is less than their book value. It was kind of right when home prices kind of bottomed there in the towards the end of 2022 into the first quarter of 2023. And just purely the fact that they owned homes in the neighborhoods made them worth more than about $2. But that's very interesting that even though they're a crappy flipper, they have to keep doing it. But you're saying they want to wait to sell the bulk of their listings in the spring, which is also what I hear a lot of sellers yapping about, is this idea that, well, we'll just hold our listings until the spring because then there'll be more buyers. But, if everybody says that, what's the spring going to look like?
Yeah. What's really interesting is they're expecting a 1% to 2% profit on those homes that they sell in later February. Which
by waiting the extra quarter.
Yeah, by waiting the extra quarter.
So that could be like $5,000 per home, $5,000 to $10,000 per home.
Which is crazy that they're taking that much risk for that small 1% to 2%.
Well, because it's 90 days at $100. I mean, their holding costs alone are going to make up that difference. See, because if your holding cost for a property is about $100 a day, that considers property taxes, insurance, utilities, and some financing. If that is your holding cost per property, then to hold the property for an extra quarter costs you $9,000. And these properties are vacant, which is the worst kind of real estate to own, is vacant real estate. You don't want vacant real estate. So they're going to spend $9,000 to hopefully make an extra 1% to 2%, you're saying, which if their average home is $500K is $5,000 to $10,000. I'm telling you, man, this company is so backwards. The leadership of this company is moronic.
Wow.
Hey, at least they seem to have a leader.
So what's also interesting is they acknowledge that they were kind of getting, I'm trying to find the word, bogged. They were getting like demoralized kind of end of Q3, but they totally whiffed on their guidance for Q4 revenue because they're acknowledging they have to carry those bad homes that had a lot of price decreases.
Right.
A lot of softening happened in the market in Q3, obviously, and they have to carry those homes over to Q4. So the revenue guidance is now $800 to $850 million, while their estimate was $1.1 billion, so a 30% miss on guidance.
Wow.
And their total homes sold fell 68% year over year.
Yeah, because they're losing money on every home. So it's kind of like if you don't sell a home, you don't have revenue, so your revenue goes down. But if you do sell homes, you show negative margins because you're a bad company. It's not even just that like the principle of what they're doing is bad. I think every single Opendoor listing we have gone into, which we've gone in a lot of Opendoor listings just to see what they're doing in different markets, in Colorado, in Utah, in California. We've seen them in Seattle. Every time we go in, we're like, oh, is this an Opendoor listing? Because it just has that nasty thing. We found a dead mouse in one of them. Event, yeah. I think that was in Aurora, Colorado. Yep. Somewhere over there. It's crazy. Just no maintenance at all on these properties. And it's funny because all the agents in the community are like, oh yeah, we hate Opendoor too. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I guess there's room for improvement.
So last thing on Opendoor, their inventory balance is $1.3 billion, representing 4,000 homes. And this is, I think it's more of a red flag. Their homes on their book rose 14% quarter over quarter. So things aren't selling for them like they have to. They're gonna have to drop the prices on those homes, and they're expecting that. They're building that in. That's why they're missing in all these guidances, because they have to build in the lower home prices. But their inventory is up 14%. They're holding more houses because they can't get rid of them fast enough, and they're gonna have to hold them into the spring.
Yeah.
So their holding costs, like you just explained, are gonna go way up, and they're hoping to get 1 to 2% on those.
Well, because in June, they actually made $23 million of net income. They lost $106 million in the last quarter here in September. The company's just losing money. It's going to be really interesting to see how they end up doing through this Q4, Q1, Q2-ish cycle. Are they going to be able to survive?
Yeah.
They were a trade play last year, but boy, I couldn't hold this company with a 10-year
Not to deviate, but look at the breaking news on the ticker there.
I can't see it.
SBF found guilty on all 7 criminal counts.
No way.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wasn't today the first day of deliberation?
Yeah,
Yep.
so
same
they
day deliberation.
They slam dunked it
Here.
then. No way. Oh, yeah, that's it. All 7 defrauding customers.
Yeah, this is
by
breaking.
jury.
It's not even on Twitter yet.
Yeah, I was just checking it.
Yeah.
I refreshed and it went from no news to all the news, like in one refresh.
Yeah, just all of a
When
sudden
does-
you see it
When
there.
does his time come out?
I think
The sentencing from the judge, yeah, wow. Well, it's no surprise. The guy's a scumbag. I mean, I'm very curious to see this though.
But he drove a Corolla or whatever.
Yeah. He did that to defraud people.
Yeah.
It's just that makes it even more disgusting now. Is that now the truth comes out that he did that for the image. You know, people do that. You know, I mean, it makes sense to say because it's like a style of advertising. It's like, look how frugal I am or whatever. But anyway, yeah. Jury in Sam Bankman-Fried trial reaches verdict in FTX crypto fraud case. Found guilty. All 7 charges. That was fast. They just started deliberations because
Same day.
I'm pretty sure I walked in here after my test this morning, which I passed. Thank you.
Yay.
Yay. I walked in here around 11, and I saw Ken, and I'm like, oh, they're starting deliberations with Sam Bankman-Fried. That was like 5 hours. 5 hours.
They all walked in. Fraud.
Yes.
Donuts. Wait, where's lunch?
Yeah. Guys, before we decide the slam dunk, y'all got any food?
So how long until sentencing happens?
I would guess within the next month they'll probably set a sentencing hearing. 3 to 6 weeks. Does that sound about right, Ken? What do you think? How long for sentencing? I don't even know if he's here.
Probably later today.
He's already sentenced. So okay, wow, that is very, very quick. So well, that's fantastic. Okay, wow. The charges. Oh, here we go. You ready for this? NYT. The charges carry a maximum sentence of 110 years.
That's lower than Madoff.
It is because his crime was also 1/6 of Madoff. We found yesterday when we were talking about it. But Madoff was like 160 years or whatever. My guess was he'd be like 25 to 30 years. If the max is 110, I don't think he's actually going to get less than a midpoint. So I have to revise.
My guess was 60 to 80 yesterday, which I know is kind of wide. But
I think you're right. I think you go midpoint up. So like you take the range, 0 to 110. Okay, you're
55.
guilty. 55 the middle, and then you go a little above that. So I think that's the way a judge is going to lean here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 75 handle on there,
okay.
which is right what you thought,
I should have
dude.
taken the bet.
Yeah.
No one shook on anything yesterday.
No,
Man.
yeah. Damn, that's pretty good. Okay, who can get closest?
Ken gave me let me read this first.
Yeah. Anyway, it became a symbol of crypto excess, stealing as much as $10 billion from customers. Trial moved faster than anticipated, with the prosecution calling more than a dozen witnesses, but fewer than they had planned. They probably didn't need more. They just put the best ones up there. And he was an idiot on the stand. I mean, from what I'm reading, this guy's up there just dodgy and getting like buried on like, oh, I don't know. And then they show like, well, here's an email, or here's something you signed, or here's a picture of you. You just said you didn't know. So what is it? It's
I asked our in-house attorney. I'm like, Madoff pleaded guilt.
Madoff.
Madoff pled guilty. SBF did not. Like, why wouldn't he? He was just like, because he's an idiot.
Yeah, that's a good
It's just
point.
like, if you're gonna you have to carry the burden of being not guilty all the way through. Like, you have to defend yourself. But if you're guilty, you can kind of just
yeah, hey, I messed up.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to take the argument of, mistakes were made, then say you're guilty.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder if
you got
if
me.
it could have been a strategy kind of swing the pendulum the other way. Like, yes, I'm guilty. I want to stay out of jail to work towards retribution.
Right, like how could you like help prevent this happen in the future and whatever.
Like set my retribution. Like I wonder if that's a different strategy.
Oops.
The sentencing guidelines, Ken says it could be a couple of weeks, a little bit longer.
Okay.
But they'll go back and forth. Attorneys just trying. It's basically just negotiations all over again.
Well, it's when everyone's available, and then they're gonna try to file an appeal, and so there'll be delays and this, that, or whatever. But you could still delay or appeal at the same time. And really, remember when you lose a criminal case, in order to appeal, there has to be like a lack of due process somewhere in there. Like you can't just appeal because you didn't like the ruling. Like the court actually had to do something wrong. So you have to fight the process, and that's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to say, well, the court handled the case wrong, but you can't just say, well, I disagree with the ruling, because there's no option for that. Very interesting.
Somebody said that's $100 to McKay. Did we have a bet on this?
I don't think you guys ever shook on it.
No, we shook on
Did you?
something.
It was the
You were saying
Elon
25
and
here.
Zuck will fight before
Yes,
Jerome Powell
that's
cuts
what it
rates.
was.
Okay, yeah, we
separate
did
thing.
shake
But
on
we
it.
did talk about this, but we never took a bet on this
That's
one.
interesting. Anyway, okay, wow. Well, that's some fancy breaking news right there. Good catch there with the ticker tape or whatever we want to call it. Well, I call it the tape.
Yeah, to finish off Opendoor, how does Opendoor's guidance change HouseHack's perspective?
Oh, zero. Opendoor, like whatever Opendoor says, I look at it and I just laugh. Like they're like personally, I look at, and I know this sounds like super cocky and arrogant because I freaking hate Opendoor, but I look at it and I'm like, they're a $1.4 billion company. That's all I gotta say. So anyway,
All right, let me fly through a couple more earnings here, and then we'll get to some more stuff. Shell, $6.2 billion in profit, which is actually slightly below estimates, but basically it's at estimates, but significantly increased from Q2, which was $5.1 billion. However, last year, this quarter was like almost $10 billion. It was 9.45.
everybody was like screaming about how much money all the oil companies were making last year. Yeah, it was
Yep.
crazy.
So they're working their way back up, but we're still like, I mean, just past half of what they were making this time last year.
right.
Free cash flow fell from 12.1 billion in Q2 to 7.5 billion. Cash capital expenditure rose from 5.1 to 5.6.
They spend a lot of money,
They
man.
did. And they just announced a stock buyback, $3.5 billion type stock buyback in the next 3 months.
That's 3.5 times as much of a buyback as end phase.
So they were up 4.83%. I get also slightly down in the after hours, but overall good day for them. So moving on, we've got Starbucks. Earnings per share, $1.06 versus the 97. Excuse me, I can't talk right now. 97 cents expected. 1.22 bill in income, which is up from the 878 million that was expected.
Are they going to make it in China? That's what I want, because, see, they did something very interesting during COVID, during the whole China shutdown, during the entire time of the shutdown. You know what Starbucks was doing over there? Building store after store after store after store. They like doubled the number of stores they have in China, which is crazy. Now the question is, are they actually going to make money? Like, are the Chinese going to come? Will they come?
The China thing bit them in the butt so hard when it was happening because the whole country locked down.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
No one was going to Starbucks at the time.
But is that like potentially the great like sleeping giant of Starbucks? That's what I've been wondering. I don't know. I mean, let me put it this way. People are like, oh, there's a recession coming to the United States. I'll tell you where there's a recession coming. China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did look at, so one metric I do have is same store sales. So not counting any new stores that were open this last quarter, same store sales rose 8%.
In the U.S.?
This is global.
Okay, global. Okay.
They had U.S. numbers too, I think, but I don't have them down.
Yeah.
This was due to higher than average checks and a 3% increase in customer traffic. My hunch is this is 100% due to the pumpkin spice lattes being back in season.
Oh, the PSLs. But it's all. But then again, if you're comparing
PSLs.
year over year.
The PSLs.
The PSL.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I've been drinking PSLs for a while, since back when I was a police explorer. That was our mission. It's like, okay, that guy's in jail. Want to get a PSL? We're like, let's go.
And they are not slowing down on the building either.
No.
So they have plans to add 17,000 more locations by 2030, which to put into perspective, that's like 50% more. They have just over 35,000 right now globally.
It is insane how much they're trying to build. Their CEO was talking about how they want to also do delivery-only locations, which I think that'll be kind of interesting, like deliver your coffee for you. Okay. I don't know if, where that'll go, but anyway, yeah, that's Starbucks. How to figure out, though, how well they're doing in China, that I think is the key. Maybe we go to Starbucks Investor Relations and I'm going to poke around there. I like to wait for the 10 Qs on these, but it's not as fun because the 10 Qs usually always come like, 2 or 3 days later. So they just give you a little generic press release the day of earnings, which is weird. You'd think they'd have it ready, but they don't. Anyway, here's some numbers on China. In China, international comp store sales increased 5%, driven by a 6% increase in transactions, 1% decline in the average ticket. China, here we go, comp store sales up 5%, driven by an 8% increase in transactions. I wonder if that's because they do have so many more stores, though. Like, is that really people buying more Starbucks, or is it because they have more stores? 3% decline in the average ticket in China. At the end of Q4, the U.S. and China make up 61% of the global store profile. There are 6,800. There used to be 3,000 in China. That's 61%, which means you have a total number of stores at Starbucks of about just under 38,000 stores. Wow. And they want to add 17,000 more, you said?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
By 2030.
Yeah.
I've been to a Starbucks in China before.
Oh, how was it?
It's about the same.
It's about, yeah. I mean, you would kind of hope it would be, because that's the idea. It's like they're trying to sell the idea of like, oh, get your taste of America. You know?
It had
How's that freedom taste?
some subtly different things on the menu, but for the most part, it was like largely the same.
Like $1 communism and so.
Oh, communism.
They would take you away if you visited China.
Dude, I can't go to China. I know that. I cannot go to China. Like, China is one of those places where they'll send me an invitation in a red envelope and I'll never come back if I go.
So Starbucks was up 9.48% today with all this news, and they were actually slightly up in after hours last I checked.
Yeah, they're up 10% on the day. Dude.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'll speed through this one too. Marriott, they underperformed overall, but they did see an 8.8% increase in revenue per available room, which to them is a very significant metric. That's one they always mention during their earnings. Now they're forecasting full-year adjusted earnings per share between $8.50 and $8.59, which compares to prior estimates of $8.36 to $8.65 per share. So somewhere in the middle, maybe on the higher end of that too. Net income was $752 million, which is about $2.51 per share. And that compares to the $630 million expected, or actually, sorry, not expected, $630 million a year prior. So they're doing a lot better than they were last year.
Wow.
Revenue rose 12%, ahead of analysts' average. Adjusted profit per share is $2.11, which is about in line with estimates. We'll say, though, they were down 1.64% and a little bit lower in after hours. Hilton was up almost 1% today, and they actually did well in their earnings. And then sort of related is Airbnb, which took a 3.32% hit today.
After their earnings. Yeah, it seems like the theme here, especially in these travel ones, is somewhat lighter guidance than people are expecting. I mean, this makes sense. This is called an economy that is starting to slow down. I think even J-Pow mentioned this yesterday. People just have more freaking money than everybody else thought was possible. So there's a lot more money out there circulating, and so that's kind of what's keeping the economy going. But then again, we saw that real now GDP chart coming off the cliff, so we'll see how that goes.
Bill.com also reported today.
How'd they do?
Bad.
Oh,
They actually cited uncertain inflation with small businesses.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me because small businesses are the ones that get reamed the hardest under these high interest rates.
And consumer uncertainty pose a bigger threat to its smaller business customers.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, dude. They dropped 32% in after hours. Holy crap. Oh my God. How do you draw that much? Wow. So what? That's incredible. So their revenue Q2, their forecast on revenue was actually only down about 10%. Their forecast was estimated to be $319.6 million. and that was their forecast. They came in about 296, 297-ish or whatever. But that's not. It looks like it's their full year revenue, but even that cut's nominal. 123. So 1.23 billion divided by the forecast of 1.30. They cut their guide 5%. 5% guide cut turned into 32%
I wonder.
of a decline.
I wonder if it's not why it's not that they cut. It's why they cut. Does that make sense?
What's the
Well, yeah.
volume? Like how much?
Because the word they said inflation uncertainty and small business like uncertainty as well, which are like scary words to say on an earnings call.
It's true. I'm wondering about the volume on that. I wonder if it's going to bounce back tomorrow. If it's just a small amount of retail driving the price down.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, that's a really good question. Let's pull it up. We'll find out. We'll look at that. But wow, that is a big move. And they were running there for quite a while. I actually trimmed quite a bit of them because I have exposure to them, and I think it reduced the position in half because I'm like, that did really well. Let's take some of that. And now apparently I'm glad about that.
Do you know somebody made a bot to track that actively managed ETF?
Nope, don't want to hear about it.
It's kind of it's like it's each position.
Got to be careful talking about these things. We're gonna get a visit from the SEC. But so what do we have with the next earnings?
Okay, so some of the after hours earnings, we're going to do Apple.
Ooh.
Slight beat, and I have some numbers based on per product here. But so per share earnings is $1.46 versus $1.39, which was expected. Revenue is $89.5 billion versus $89.28 expected. So basically, they met expectations there. But on iPhone revenues, because we were talking about that, I think yesterday, $43.8 billion, which is basically matching expectations on the dot as far as iPhone. Mac revenue, $7.6 billion, which is less than expected. They expected $8.6 for Mac. iPad sales, $6.4 billion versus $6.1 expected. Services revenue, $22.3 billion versus $21.4 billion expected. So they killed it in services too.
And that's really one of their highest margin sectors. I think we forget just how much money Apple makes from
screen repairs.
Well, yeah, no kidding. Screen repair. Just repairing your phone, yeah. But how much money they make on just being able to upsell you more storage for iCloud or, the iLife suite, which, now is whatever. They keep changing the name of it. But you look at, your storage for your photos or, being able to... I don't know. What are some of the other services? The music, streaming whatever music you want, or Apple TV. So, I mean, good for them. These are all things going into their services. Wow, good for Apple.
The last one they have is the wearables and accessories revenue, which was 9.3 versus a 9.4 expectation.
Miss there. iPad has been down just like year. Well, actually, no. iPad beat
this time.
Wow.
6.4 versus 6.1. Yeah.
I'm so used to iPad always missing 6.4 versus 6.1. That's crazy. China missed pretty nicely though.
Why was Mac revenue down?
Oh, it's always down. Everybody bought a new computer during COVID, and they're like, I don't need another one. China was down 12% off of the estimate. Wow. That's a nice miss there on China. That's what we've been seeing, though, is price cuts on iPhone 15s in China and India. That's why. You get price cuts when the revenues go down. Well,
so even though they did well, and they were up today like 2%, and even more in the after hours, they were up like over 3% last I checked. They did have a weak outlook for the current quarter, which kind of ties in back to what we were talking at the beginning. I actually feel like I have faith in the American not making the right financial decision and racking up that credit card debt for the holidays. So I'm kind of optimistic about Apple this quarter. It's probably going to be pain next quarter.
Yeah.
But I guess remains to be seen.
Wow, that is really interesting. Yeah, Apple, good old Apple. Well, I guess we'll have to see what happens this winter. I'm very curious about those M3s to see how they sell, if they can actually end up pushing those Apple computer Mac revenues up because, again, a miss over there. Like you said, 7.6 versus 8.7.
They come in a cool black color now, man. They're going to kill it.
I've never had a black Mac.
I think it looks great.
Yeah. What was the black they used to have? Because they used to have the little MacBook, one of the original MacBook. It was like, I had one 10 years ago or something.
Like the plasticky feeling ones?
Yeah. But here. What is this? There's one on eBay. Oh wow, you could get it for $175 now. That's crazy. OS Catalina. I'm just looking for different examples here. No, anyway, they have some old ones. We could probably pull up some pictures of them actually. Oh yeah, here's one. This black MacBook sat under a couch for 8 years and it booted up just right. Circa 2007. There it is.
Yeah.
2007. Yeah.
I got one on my screen.
There it is. That's it. Yeah, I had that's probably mine. Yeah. So when I saw them introduce the black, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like I had one of these. So yeah, I mean, who knows? You know, now it's probably they're going with this like anodized, I don't know, aluminum or steel, whatever they're doing.
Should be better with fingerprints. At least that's what they said.
That's true. Whereas this plastic, you could see the oil on
magnet,
or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a little nasty. But yeah, whatever.
All right. Do you want a couple more earnings? Do you want to move on?
What else do we have?
Atlassian and Cloudflare were the last two I was going to talk about.
Oh, let's do Cloudflare.
Okay, so I'm poor again.
Oh no, because you have a lot of Cloudflare.
I'm a big Cloudflare bull and always have been. So they beat Wall Street. I mean, this is kind of the theme for the day. Beat Wall Street, weak expectations, weak guidance, stock goes down. Earnings for the quarter, 16 cents a share, which is up 166% from previous year, which was 6%. On a per share basis, we're looking at a 7-cent loss, but adjusted for the one-time gains and costs, that's when you're getting the 16 cents per share. But analysts predicted a profit of 10 cents and a revenue of 330 mil. So, I mean, they killed it. Revenue climbed 32% to 335 mil. Q3, they added 206 new large customers. And to Cloudflare, large customer is a customer that spends over $100,000 annually, because they also do the small mom and pop shops and kind of everything in between.
Like the $10 to $20 kind of per month people, or the smallers.
Those ones are like, because they have the enterprise contracts. Like the $20 one is their little pro plan, and they have a $200 business plan. But all the contractual customers, usually that's like we're looking at $3K minimum. So the large ones are the 100Ks. But they ended the quarter with over 2,500 large customers, which is up 34% from a year prior.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it looks like it's down like 6%. It doesn't seem that horrible, honestly.
It was down 9% at one point in after hours.
Oh, was? Okay.
So it kind of bounced back a little bit.
Yeah. I'm very curious, honestly, about the Bill.com one, because that it makes me wonder, like, how do you have a 5% miss on guide and then fall that much? So
They have to have said something in the call.
Yeah. That'll be fascinating to see. Carvana killed it today. I mean, they were up like 15% today after their
There were
earnings.
some strong runners. Roku was up 30%. Shopify was up like 22%. Obviously,
That's
Palantir
funny.
killed it. Even
Lemonade
Affirm got up like 20%.
Yeah,
It's
all of
funny
these
that
crazy
Bill.com
numbers.
was citing small business struggles,
Yeah.
but Shopify
Yeah.
had such a big beat.
Yeah, true. They're up 22%. Well, I think sometimes that's the problem, is if you have optimistic guide or just the tone on the earnings call. Like you get an Elon on the earnings call, the stock tanks. So, yeah, presentation matters.
Okay. And I guess just for overall the day, S&P was up 1.89%. We have NASDAQ up 1.78 and the Dow 1.7. So pretty good day in the market overall. The only thing that was down was the VIX.
What about Vol? What about Israel? What's going on here? Because I hear now there's money that Republicans have passed for Israel, and then we've got some problems with Hezbollah. So I want to hear about that from you. It looks like Republicans just passed the $14.3 billion aid package for Israel. The Biden administration is like, yo, what is this, Republicans? We asked for $106 billion and you give us 14? That's not going to cut it. How are we going to get money for Ukraine, Taiwan, U.S. border securities, and security? And then, of course, domestic priorities like disaster relief, childcare, broadband services for low-income households. Don't leave it to Starlink. Spend 1,000 times as much money as Starlink and let the government install broadband in the middle of America. Biden didn't get his money. Is he going to get his money? That's the question now.
McKay's
not
shaking
gonna
his head.
McKay's saying no, he's not going to get his money. No. Because Biden's like, this Israel deal is dead on arrival. So now you have Israel's money caught up, which I can already hear a lot of people going, I could just imagine, like, good. Stop giving Israel money and maybe that war will end. I mean, quite frankly, to some extent, that's probably true. Like, if you said, sorry, Congress sucks. We can't get you any more funding, Israel. And then Israel's like, okay, we're gonna have to scale back a little bit, right?
think so?
I think so.
'Cause
Absolutely.
My thinking is like right now, that's kind of like the dangling carrot is like, please stop, please, please do this, please don't do this. We'll keep giving you money. If the U.S. money stops, they go, all right, well, we're using whatever we've got and we're blowing up Gaza for good and invading West Bank and we'll never have to deal with them again.
That's a good point. The counter would be they rely on us to fill up their Iron Dome. So if we don't give them Iron Dome, and now they're getting attacked from the Houthis, Lebanon's, Hezbollah group, or Iran, via Syria or however, you're going to start running out of defensives, and everybody else is going to know it. That's the other thing. It's like, oh, Americans not sending any money anymore, huh? Enjoy rockets every day for the next, 6 months, and then at some point you're going to run out of ammunition. At some point you're going to go, we're going to have to let that rocket in, and
Pick and choose.
That's exactly. Then you start becoming selective. And now you're just playing God, who's like, and now, of course, obviously Israel would also be attacking and doing whatever. I mean, they'll print money if they need to. They'll do whatever they can. It's not like they're going to let that happen. But the point is, it does change the calculus when you have to fund your own war.
It does.
Oh,
I think also, I think they would go total ham on Palestine personally, and then they would either start learning how to speak Mandarin or Russian.
And Putin, you got some rubles for us?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's why the U.S. is also enjoying their positioning there, because it gives the U.S. a destabilizing force in the Middle East, which lets them create essentially a chaos theory, right? You create chaos somewhere else, who's in control? Well,
The creator of chaos.
That
yeah.
actually plays into the reaction video later.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
All
Well,
right.
we'll go. Why don't play it now? What is it?
No. Let's keep going with Israel.
Oh, you want to stay on topic?
Yeah.
We want to stay on topic.
Okay.
So you can go fast if you want.
What else we have?
So Egypt the other day was like, we would rather die than let Palestinians come over, and they've changed that, and they were going to help evacuate 7,000 foreign passport holders from Gaza. This is while Biden's calling for a pause in fighting to let the humanitarian effort happen. But these 7,000 people, this is representing a total of 60 different nationalities, so from all over the world. 400 people are expected to cross today. Yesterday we saw, I think it was 361. And so that's down in the south. But if we go over to the north, Gaza City, this was reported a couple hours ago, completely surrounded per IDF. 3 different sides.
Yeah.
The battling's been happening in really close quarters inside of the city now. A lot of Hamas militants were killed overnight. I'm gonna.
I saw the opposite too. I actually saw a lot of a lot of Hamas soldiers taking out Israeli tanks.
Oh, I'll show you that video right now.
That video is pretty crazy.
There's propaganda on each side. Imagine that. Imagine that.
All right.
Wow.
Awful, yes.
I've got this on the screen. This is Hamas militants over here, which is Al-Qassam is their military rank. There's a tank. That's an IDF tank going by.
You gotta get EV versions of these things, man.
Oh, with all that weight, they'll go like 50 feet and need a charge.
Oh, this guy's just eating it right up to it. Oh, wow. Wow. The fact that we can watch this stuff now is so crazy.
And then he's got one more little surprise for them here.
Yeah.
There was 2 tanks.
Yeah, here's
Got a
the second
rocket.
one. Boom. Here it is, a repeat. It's got the
Wow.
shot.
The second. See, this is what I was talking about. This is why I said Israel's like, obviously I imagine they knew what they were getting to, but they're walking right into a trap.
Yeah.
Like Hamas has had like 3 weeks to get ready for this.
Sure.
They've had 3 weeks to set up booby traps, to set up outposts, to set up raid bases, to set up so many things to get the tanks to come in and blow up the tanks. And this is why they're having to go close quarter combat. And it just sucks. There's more casualties. Nobody wins right now. Like, it just sucks for everyone.
Yep. But, obviously you've got a very clear argument from Israel here that you need to end people attacking Israel, because Israel will come, and there will be casualties obviously on both sides, but they will come. And I think that's the message that they're very clearly trying to send is don't mess with Israel. And they kind of need to some extent, because the more they let themselves get bullied, the more it will happen. The flip side, though, is the more innocent people die, family members, children, parents, whatever, the more you radicalize people. And that's the big problem with war, is that you just end up radicalizing entire civilizations. And it's terrible because it just leads to that individual. He doesn't care if he dies. He's a martyr, you know? He doesn't care if, the third tank comes up and blows him up. Who knows? Maybe he already got blown up. Yeah. He's probably dead, So
I get even more confused when you start seeing the Wall Street Journal saying Wagner is offering to support Hezbollah, and you have Lebanon closing schools for fear that Hezbollah is going to actually join the war, and Lebanon's firing missiles. Like, this is one of the very first days we talked about. We had that. I always forget his name. It's not Bill Ackman. It's what's it said? Dalio said this is going to be a hotbed. Like, other countries are going to join in, and I didn't want to believe it, but unfortunately, we're starting to see some of this hot water bleed all over.
I do think it is very interesting that you're right. The Wagner Group is now providing air defense to Hezbollah because basically you've got Hezbollah threatening and starting to, probe and attack northern Israel. Israel, therefore, strikes back via airstrikes or rockets or however, missiles, cruise missiles, whatever. And so Wagner, which for a moment there, you had Putin trying to come across as like, oh, we want peace in the region, right? Now it's like, fund the enemies. They're trying to, create the chaos.
This is such so many planes to this, because now Putin is using Wagner to fight his proxy war. Meanwhile, we're using Ukraine to fight our proxy war. It's just all ringing around the road. Like, it's just so...
Well, that's just what the big countries do, unfortunately.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's why if they could all just get along, we'd have no inflation and lots of great trade and stocks up.
To McKay's point, Lebanon schools are actually closed. They cited sudden security developments, and they're closing down schools.
So scary for kids, too.
Oh, yeah. Hezbollah has a big speech prepared tomorrow. Actually, on my screen here, I have some of the chairs.
The teaser of it?
Well, I'll show you that, too.
Okay.
This is just all the seating they have in preparation for the speech they're giving tomorrow. But, yeah, to your point, they...
that's what Wagner is trying to air defense, I bet. Wherever they're giving that speech, I guarantee you Israel's like, our lasers are locked on. We are locked on.
I wonder where this would be. This can't be that close to the border, unless it is, and that's why they need Wagner there.
It would be interesting to see where that is. This is a Hezbollah?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and we don't know where the speech is supposed to be?
No, somewhere in Lebanon.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, they have a trailer for this shit. This killed me. I've got it up on the screen. It's like we're gonna watch some movie. I mean, it's potato quality, but...
Oh, look at that big ring. He's got money.
Oh.
That 70s era Soviet technology, so frightening.
I don't know, man. If this was like a movie trailer,
this would get like 1 star on Rotten Tomatoes.
It's not even like Bollywood grade here.
Someone in the office actually said this is like the most Bollywood thing they've ever seen.
Some of the stuff that comes out of Bollywood is actually good. It's amazing. Like, remember Slumdog Millionaire? That was like anyway.
Was that a Bollywood movie? I thought that was like American Hollywood.
Oh, was it? I'll see. Then so maybe maybe I took the wrong impression away. Now I have to find out. But anyway, all right. What else? Do we have about Hezbollah? There's something everybody wants. There was...
Well, they have that announcement.
Yeah, so we have the announcement tomorrow. We don't know what they're announcing. We know they're shutting down schools. We know Israel aid package, it's not going anywhere in Congress because the Dems aren't going to go for it.
So what happens if Hezbollah says, all right, all out war? Because if you think about it...
They're not going to do that.
From what I can understand of the situation, maybe I'm completely wrong. Please correct me. Israel is not loved by these Arab countries. They want Israel gone.
You're on the right track.
So if, why not strike while the iron's hot? If you I'm not saying that they should. I'm just saying from their perspective, is this invoke an all-out war to get rid of
No,
Israel.
I don't. This does nothing. This speech, in my opinion, tomorrow it's going to be, hey, this is Israel's been aggressive. They got what's coming to them. We need to stand for our nations and our borders. It's going to be that kind of like propaganda thing. It's not like he's going to get up and be like, we're going to war.
Kind of reminds me of this. I forgot the page, but it's a troll page on Twitter, and this guy will post every single time like, tonight I will be speaking out against the war, and then that night he posts another tweet and he goes, I am against the war. Right? So it's going to be one of these nothing burgers.
Yeah, exactly.
But they have been firing. I have it on my screen here. This just yesterday happened. Missiles hit this far north Israeli town. 2 injured. Doesn't seem anyone critical. Let me turn it down a little. I think one of the injuries had to do with shrapnel. But they are... I mean, this is right up on the border of Lebanon, too. So I don't think they're going to stop the attacks, but I don't think they're necessarily going to increase the attacks either. I think they're already doing their best.
Crazy.
So
Crazy.
That's everything we have on Israel today.
All right, well, let's end it there. I've got to run. I got to get back to the kiddos. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. I know we've got some extra things to cover, but we'll pick those up tomorrow then.
Sounds good to
So,
me.
thank you, everybody. Go check out the courses at meetkevin.com. The crash courses, the prices will be double by the end of the month. Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, licensed real estate broker, becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial advice nor real estate advice for you, not tax, legal, or otherwise personal advice tailored to you. Third-party content showed is not endorsed by us, and none of the information shall be deemed reasonably sufficient for the purposes of evaluating a security. Links or promoted products like your StreamYard shirt, my StreamYard mug, or my StreamYard pillow. Go to metkevin.com/StreamYard to learn more. Or promoted products, paid affiliations we may profit from. And even though we've mentioned quite a few positions in here and stocks that we might have positions in, we have no relationship to any issuers, nor are we a market maker. Thanks so much. See you next one.